postdoctoral researcher from Imperial College London, working within the NCD risk group. And my talk today is going to be about worldwide trends in human height as a proxy for health and nutrition. So, as I just mentioned, I work within the Non-Communicable Disease Risk Factor Collaboration, NCD Risk, which is a worldwide network of over 1,000 collaborators providing timely data on major risk factors of non-communicable diseases from all countries around the world. Thank you. Height measurements from over 2,200 different studies with almost 123 million participants aged 5 years old and over. This map shows the number of data sources with height measurements available from each country around the world. And as you can see, we have extensive data from high-income countries as well as across Asia. However, data is much more sparse in sub-Saharan Africa as well as in some countries in Eastern Europe. I will now show you some of our results in worldwide trends of mean adult height over a century of analysis from 1914 to 2014. So these trends were estimated using a Bayesian hierarchical model, and the analysis were stratified by gender. So there is a set of results for females and an equivalent set of results for males. So I will first show you some results on global trends for both males and females, and then I will focus on trends across Asia. So in 1914, more than 100 years ago, men were shortest in Latin America and in Asia. And at the country level, men were shortest in Laos and were on average 153 centimeters, which would correspond to a well-nourished 12-year-old boy according to the international growth standards. On the other hand, the tallest men a century ago lived in North America, Northern Europe, and some Pacific islands. And at the country level, men were tallest in Sweden and were on average 172 centimeters, which is almost 20 centimeters taller than in Laos. Changes in mean height over the century of analysis vary drastically across countries. And although there have been large increases in European men's height, the largest gain in height occurred in Iran, where men became 16.5 centimeters taller since 1914. Similarly to men, the tallest women a century ago lived in Latin America and in Asia. And at the country level, women were shortest in Guatemala and were on average 140 centimeters. On the other hand, just like for males, the tallest women a century ago lived in Sweden and were on average 160 centimeters. So again, the difference between the tallest and the shortest country for females a century ago was about 20 centimeters, like in males. And this gap in height between the tallest and the shortest country has remained essentially unchanged over the past century, and as I mentioned, is about 20 centimeters. Women have also grown by different amounts in different countries, and actually the largest gain in height occurred in South Korea, where women became 20 centimeters taller since 1914. And as a consequence, South Korea moved from the 5th shortest country in 1914 to the top tertile of tallest women in 2014. The pace of growth in height has not been uniform over the past century, and I will try to illustrate this with some examples across Asia. So in many East Asian countries, there has been an impressive rise in height, which has already stopped in some countries. For example, Japanese men stopped growing in the late 70s, while South Korean men continue growing until the early 2000s. Oh, sorry, it's not moving. No? No, not moving. Here, mine is moving, but not there. Growth over the century of analysis has not been uniform, and I will try to illustrate this with some examples across Asia. So in East Asia, there has been an impressive rise in height in many countries, which has already stopped in some countries, but at different time points. So for example, Japanese men stopped growing in the late 70s, while South Korean men continue growing until the early 2000s. In contrast to this plateau in height, height continued to increase in other East Asian countries such as China, and actually Chinese men are currently taller than the Japanese one, but still shorter than the South Korean one. In contrast to this impressive rise in height in East Asia, the rise in height seems to have plateaued at much lower levels in South Asian countries such as India, Bangladesh or Pakistan than it did in East Asia. And it would be, for example, from 5 to 10 centimeters smaller than it did in Japan or South Korea. So just as a summary of all the contents that we have covered in this presentation, so at the NCD risk, we have a very large data set on anthropometric measurements from adults, children and adolescents. We have extensive data from high-income countries and across Asia. However, data is much more sparse in Africa and Eastern Europe. There have been complex height patterns and changes over the past century, and in the particular case of Asia, we have seen that there has been an impressive rise in height in East Asia, while growth has plateaued at much lower levels in South Asia. And I am currently doing similar analysis to estimate trends in children and adolescent height, as well as trends in prevalence of height categories for different age groups. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you for a very interesting presentation.